And now I want to try something a little different. It's still going to involve wood turning, but for a slightly different purpose. One day when I was going through my toolbox, I found this hammer. Now, this hammer is intended to have replaceable faces, and they're both missing. And I couldn't find a brand on this, but I did go looking for faces that would fit. Wasn't really satisfied with what I was finding, and I thought, gee, I could probably make faces for this myself. Now the thread is 5/16 by 18, and that's kind of perfect. I've recently been making the bottle stoppers, and this is a blank for a bottle stopper kit, and that's 5/16 by 18, so I'm all set to drill and tap the hole for that. I also have a very good piece of lignum vitae. This is excellent for hammer faces, and this is a remnant from a tool handle that I made. Already drilled and tapped the one hole, and I was going to make a bottle stopper for this. I think I can get two faces out of this block of lignum vitae, so we'll use this as part of the supplies. And I have a nice piece of threaded rod, 5/16 18 of course, and I'll be cutting sections out of this. What we're after is to make a face that looks similar to this. Now this is for a much larger hammer that I have, and you can see how they make them. This is some kind of a very hard rubber or plastic material, and it's for a dead blow hammer, which is the kind of hammer that doesn't really bounce back. And you can see that the thread stud is molded right into it, and the intent of course is to just screw it into the hammer. So this one here of course is too big, and it won't go, but it gives you the concept. We're going to make something similar to that, but we're going to turn it around a little bit, and we'll discuss why I'm doing that later. So to get started, I'm going to cut off two sections of this threaded rod, and this will thread right into here, as you can see, and that will be a good place to start. So let's do that. Well, now I'm ready to cut the threaded rod. I want to make small lengths because of the use in the hammer, and you'll see exactly how that all stacks up later. So I've marked this, and whenever you're going to cut something like this, always hold it with a vise or something, because if you try and hold this by hand, it's probably going to spin on you. And I've got a metal cutting blade in this saw, and I have the ability to adjust my blade speed on this tool, so I can slow it down so I can cut metal or wood with this saw. And now we're cutting metal, so let's go ahead with it. So we got the two pieces cut. Now I'm going to take them to the grinding wheel and just ease the burrs off here so that I can start them into the hammer or the new faces that we're going to make. Okay, I've ground the burrs off on these little pieces of threaded rod, and now I'm going to put them into the hammer body. And I said earlier that I was going to turn things around a little bit, and this is what I mean by that. As you've seen before, this is a conventional design of these types of hammers, where you get the replacement head, and it comes with this threaded rod still sort of molded in with it, and you'll put that into the hammer. Since I'm converting this to use this piece of wood, and since I want to be able to commonly replace these whenever I wear them out, I'm changing it around a little bit in that the thread will be secured into the hammer and stay there. And then when I make new faces for it, I'll thread the hole and just screw it on. And so for that little change up in the overall design of this type of system, I'm going to use thread locker and put these in and let that take a set, and these will stay there well, pretty much forever. I suppose you can get them back out, but they're going to be hard to remove. The whole point being that when I make new faces for this, I'll just unscrew the old one and the thread will stay with the hammer, and I'll never have to replace that. So once this, since these are being put together now, while this sets and gets permanent, we're going to go ahead and prep the wood. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I've got that piece of wood, as you can see, put into the chuck. The round part is in the chuck. That's also the end that already has the threaded hole. What I'm going to do now is knock the corners off. We're not going to go to the final diameter yet. Knock the corners off, face it off to get this wax off, and then drill and tap this hole. Now these holes go fairly shallow. We just need it enough to hold it onto the hammer head. As you can imagine, when you use the hammer, the threads don't really do anything. They just hold it up against the body of the hammer. So you don't need a lot of thread there. And so let's turn the lathe on and turn this down to a diameter we can start to work with. I knocked the corners off a little bit, and I want to raise this up. I can see I had a little too low, but that's good. Then we carry on. That's good enough. Now I can just face off a little bit here, just to make sure that that face is completely square. Okay, that's a good place to start from. Now, when I do this kind of hole drilling, I like to start with a centering drill. This nice stout drill, I can define my center point very nicely with that. It'll give me a starting point for the main drill that's going to be to hold the threads. And that's all you need to do for that. Now, you take that out. This is the hole that I need for the threads, and I don't want to go in very far, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so. So I'll just more or less eyeball that. If you want, you could really mark the drill to make sure you don't go in too deep, but I think we'll be good with this. And I don't have graduated spindle on my tailstock, so you just have to guess at some of these things. Now, since I'm going into wood, it's probably not absolutely necessary to use a tapered tap, but I will just to start it. And no, I'm not going to turn the lathe on for this. I'm just going to hold up against it, get it started. And that's just to define the threads there, just to get them started. Now I'll just take this out by hand. And now, again, I'll put it into the tailstock and get this started like so. I do this so that I know that the tap is started perfectly square with the wood. Since I'm not going to turn the lathe on right now, I'll shut the drive off. I'm locking the spindle now to hold it in place, and I'll just hand tap this. And lignum vitae is a nice hardwood, and it more or less lubricates the threading process as you go because of all the paraffins that it has in it. So that will probably be good enough. We can always make it deeper later if we had to, but now we're going to go to the next step, which is to cut this in half. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece of wood. I'm back on the table, on the bandsaw rather, and if you have fairly sharp eyes at all, you'll see I have not changed the blade. This is a metal cutting blade, but it's fairly coarse for a metal cutting blade. I believe it's 10 teeth per inch. And I think we can get away with cutting this piece of wood with it. I do want to point out that I'm holding this in a vise. I would always say hold a piece of wood this small in a vise, even if it's square, but particularly if it's round like this piece is. If the piece of wood that you want to hold is too big to clamp in the vise that you have because the jaws aren't tall enough, all you really have to do is just lay it on the side and then clamp the piece of wood flat on the table of the bandsaw, and then you can clamp a piece of wood as big as round as you can fit in there. Just wanted to give you another pointer for when you're using the bandsaw to do it safely. So let's cut this piece of wood. I might have to adjust the blade speed a little bit, but we'll see. And that's that. So now I have two what will become the hammer faces. Now we're going to go back to the lathe and turn this to the proper diameter and put a nice curved face on it for taking the impacts. Okay, we're back on the lathe and we're going to turn these hammer faces down to the proper diameter, which turns out to be 1 3/8. So now we have to mount that. So I've got a different chuck here, And I just wanted to show you this method. It's one I use for doing my bottle stoppers too. I've got the jaws off, and I've got a bolt. The bolt offers the advantage of having the head, which I can put on the other side of these jaws and clamp onto the threaded part. When I clamp down on this, I am sort of holding it from rotating with the chuck, but more importantly, the head stops it from coming out. Now I've got a spacer, and this will space my turning a little bit away from the chuck so I can turn right to the edge. Then when I screw this on and put it on the lathe, as I turn, any turning forces are trying to tighten this on the threaded bolt, but since the bolt cannot come forward, it'll just lock it in that much harder. It's a good way to hold things like this on your lathe when you want to turn something small. So I'm going to put this on here. I'm going to clamp it in nice and tightly. Take the spindle lock out. And now when I screw this on, it'll just jam on there, and I can go ahead and do my turning. I got the diameter close enough. Now I'm just going to put a slight dome to the face of it. Well, that should be good enough. The beauty of this kind of mounting system, of course, you can take it on and off as much as you want to test, but let's see how we've done here. Well, one down. I'll do the other one, and then I'll show you what the final thing looks like. I finished the other hammer face, so I can screw that on now. And voila, a fully functional lignum vita faced soft blow hammer. I can use this for cabinetry work or anything else I want around the house. And the beauty of it is, if I wear out a face, I just unscrew it, put another one on the lathe, and turn out whatever I want. So I can change the woods, whatever I wish to do. And there you go. Hope this technique might find its way in your shop.